Well, let's go ahead and begin. Welcome everyone to a conversation with Shannon Bruce Elliott and Vanessa Petropole-Geroulanos, designing accessories. I am Susan Becker. I co-chair the RISD Affinity group along with Lucas Leffler and Vanessa Peng. And if any of you all have any ideas for future events, or if you are interested in volunteering, please email us. We would love to hear your suggestions. I'd like to thank the RISD Institutional Engagement for supporting this event. And we're going to have some time hearing from Shannon and some time hearing from Vanessa, and then we'll have some time for questions at the end. If you have questions, please use the Q&A function to enter them into, and that'll get them over to me, and I will hand them to Vanessa and Shannon. So let's start with Shannon. Why don't you begin?
Hi everyone, I'm Shannon Elliott, coming to you today from Portland, Oregon, where I'm currently Footwear Design Director at Columbia Sportswear Company. And I'm a graduate of RISD's class of 1990 Apparel Design Department. And so as I pull up, I've prepared a little slide presentation today to let you know a little bit about my background and how I was able to transfer those skills learned at RISD into athletic footwear industry, where I've been working for the past 20 plus years. So we got a thumbs up to see the screen? Okay, awesome. So the imagery here really represents the things that made this transition possible from apparel. And people always ask, what are those transferable skills? So there really are quite a few transferable skills between apparel and footwear design. Most obviously, both industries are born out of the human need to protect our bodies from the elements. And it's also about the human desire for self-expression. And this is where fashion and cultural trends influence. But there are other practical similarities from designing on a human form, a dress form and apparel, using slopers and patterns, to a foot form, which you can see an example of what is called a last in the upper right-hand corner of the slide. And this last image is actually from a friend of mine who works at Nike. This is the Nike Air Force One. So really iconic foot form that has translated into a really iconic product. And some additional transferable skills are drafting patterns. On the left are some examples of what we call shell patterns. So that was a skill I really loved drafting when I was at RISD, and so I was excited to be able to translate that into footwear design. Now we don't do that much by hand anymore. Everything's done with the aid of the computer. So that does make things go a little bit faster, but I think if you have that foundational knowledge, it's really easy to translate that. One other area which is highly translatable is an appreciation for color, finishes, and materials. Okay, hopefully the slide is advanced. Excellent, 2 thumbs up. So why did I decide to get into footwear design? Has everything to do with these images. So I'll go through them, but on the left is a woman by the name of Liz Claiborne. Obviously the center is the Fashion Institute of Technology. And on the right, upper right is an image from a highly influential movie of the era. So right after college, I took a design position with Liz Claiborne. And it was a design internship that was, it was a paid internship, which was awesome, but gave me the opportunity to do rotations through many different departments within the organization. Liz Claiborne is famous for being a company run by women for women, creating sportswear for the modern working woman. And so with those rotations, I had the opportunity to work in tops and bottoms and handbags and belts and a little bit in footwear design. And footwear design really struck me as something that I really wanted to do. I was telling my friends on this call a little earlier, and they would remember that my croquis at RISD always had the largest feet, and I would spend a lot of time on shoes. And so it felt like a natural, calling for me to get into footwear design. But as part of this internship, the deal was that you got placed as a full-time employee in one of the departments that really needed an assistant designer. So I got placed in belts, which at the time I was like, what's a belt? I don't want to do belts the rest of my life. And I recognized that Liz Claiborne had a very generous policy for tuition reimbursement. So I went to Fashion Institute of Technology at night school and took classes in pattern making and design and how to make footwear. So that was really quite exciting time in my life. And I'm originally from Massachusetts, and so what the heck does Dirty Dancing have to do with my story? And that is the image up in the upper right hand corner. That's Baby's wearing the Keds champion Oxford. And at the time, this movie was so influential with women, especially. It reborn the athleisure, or created the athleisure category of the athletic footwear industry. And I knew Keds was in the Boston area, as well as a variety of other performance athletic companies. And so I took a risk, and I quit my job. I created a portfolio, and I moved to Boston looking for work. I had 11 interviews in 1 week. And at the end of that week, I had 2 job opportunities, one with Reebok and one with Keds. And I chose Keds because it was really, truly trying to do something new. They had this one iconic model, the Champion Oxford, in the lower right-hand corner. But they were looking to add designers to their team. They hadn't even posted for the position, but I just knocked on doors. And I don't know how many times people do that anymore, but the timing was right. And I took a job with Keds and moved back to the Boston area. And so a piece of advice I would give anyone who's trying to get into footwear is to take risks and have faith. Like I said, it was a crazy time in my life to quit a job with nothing to go to, but it was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. And I had faith in myself that this was the right place to go. I took many other leaps of faith throughout my career. Pictured here, you see some of the brands that I had an opportunity to work with right after Vans, which is right after Keds, I went to Vans. So I moved across country to Southern California and helped this, what was, more of a family run brand at the time, create product extensions and collections off their iconic skate models. So that was a fun time, and made possible by just feeling the ability to take risks and move for opportunity, move for growth. So this is, if somebody wants to get into athletic footwear, I say, keep your portfolio up to date and be prepared to move a lot to gain growth experiences. It truly is not unusual. I'm working out on the West Coast, and I meet many people who have been bi-coastal between footwear companies in New England and athletic footwear companies in Portland, Oregon. So, and that happens throughout the world within this industry. So with these brands, over time, I discovered that there's something in common about the brands that I've worked with. I've either started new companies, new footwear extensions for existing brands. So Tommy Hilfiger was a brand I moved back to the East Coast with, and that's why we've got Snoop pictured there. He was wearing Tommy on SNL at the time, and Tommy wanted to expand his collections into footwear. So I moved back across country to startup brands. On the upper right-hand corner is a startup that I also worked with a friend called TM. This is indoor cycling shoes with a lifestyle perspective. And I've also worked for brands like Reebok, which I find that Reebok and Keds were very similar experiences because they were, at the time, refurbishing iconic brands that maybe lost their luster over time. So, you over time, you don't understand this all at once in your career, but when reflecting back, you begin to see patterns and what you're really strong at. And I think my strengths come in more classic space, as well as I'm just devoted to women's and children's experience within the performance athletic arena. And so at RISD Apparel, we were taught to be fantastic storytellers with our designs. I still bring the emphasis of story into my current role, but now the stories are built from finding empathy in the human experience, not built out of pine cones and vines, which was my innovative. In 2010, while working at Reebok, myself and the only other female footwear design director were lucky enough to attend the first TED Women's Conference held in Washington, DC. And so that was only 11 years ago. And I find that this opportunity left me feeling quite awestruck about the amazing women who were present and presenting at this conference. I was able to hear Sheryl Sandberg give her take a seat at the table speech while I was a full-time working mother of two, beginning to wonder whether or not I should pull back from the table. So that was quite empowering, that story. Or whether it was witnessing the Secretary of State give a drop-in speech surrounded by Secret Service agents. What I discovered in reflection is that the real opportunity in attending this conference was the opportunity to listen and have empathy with each of the TED presenters' stories and the importance of story. And so empathy is cultivated by listening to another human and being curious enough to ask questions about their life experience. And this page represents some foundations of my design direction, kind of my ethos. The performance business is about finding empathy with the human athletic experience. Besides finding purpose through empathy in the design of your products, I stress with my team, it's really important to simplify to amplify. And this is really about less but better. And in my current role, this starts to lean in additionally into sustainability initiatives. And the third foundation block is adaptive performance. And that's really just an acknowledgement that there are many different kinds of feet in this world, and that they do very different jobs. They perform very different jobs. And at Columbia Sportswear, we're all about unlocking the outdoors for everyone. And if you're really looking to transition to athletic footwear business, be ready to be relentlessly curious about your consumer and employ the principles of design thinking. And this is actually my favorite slide in the presentation. It's about meeting your consumers where they are. I have a lot of younger designers who, are trying to let go of designing for themselves and really sensing and seeing and being curious about the consumers who we are designing for. So it's about becoming consumer obsessed, to listen and ask questions, to gain insights. And so that it's those insights that go into the visioning or the ideation phase. And then we ideate, create, and create some product solves with the scaling back to consumers. So if we're doing this process correctly, we scale with intent. We take those prototypes back to the original consumer and get their feedback. And then it's all about, like any other design industry, design, refine, and refine again. And so in closing, I wanted to thank RISD for allowing me to be part of this team today with a picture of my current team. And, I love my job right now. It's great to work in the outdoor industries. I go on trips like this one pictured here, where we went racketing or snowshoeing in Quebec to get closer to consumers and to test our product in really fun outdoorsy ways. And what's really, truly important about this picture to me is the importance of team and collaboration. And so you'll see in this picture, obviously myself in the middle, but I have on to I guess to my right is a designer, but the other two women in the pictures are regional sales operation team members as well as developers. So it really does take more than the designer skill set to make a footwear product come to life. And so it's with that I close, and I thank you so much, and I welcome questions later. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Shannon.
So,
All right, Vanessa.
share screen. Oh no, I don't find my screen here. Share. Let me start with me. Hello everyone. I'm Vanessa Petropole-Geroulanos. I'm the founder and the designer of Vanilla on the Rock, which is a jewelry company, for the past 11 years. I'm also a graduate from RISD of year 1990 from the apparel department. After RISD, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my education really fast. After I graduated from RISD, I went on to London to attend an advanced fashion course at St. Martin's, which lasted for a year. And then I thought it would be wise to go back to RISD and to complete my fashion education by taking classes from the textile department. And I did. So that was a very good, for me, experience, actually the best experience, giving me very solid foundations for designing from RISD. I then went on to New York City and I worked for several fashion houses and fashion designers. I started with fashion with Christine Francis Roth, which was haute couture house. He was starting with Isaac Mizrahi and all this generation of designers at that time. He never made it, but it was a great experience. And then I moved on to bigger organizations like Macy's Corporate Buying, Casual Corner, On Cue, until I met Sonia Trussardi from the Trussardi family in Italy. And we shared the same passion of having our own line of women's little dresses. And we did that for a few years until my family said it was time for me to move back to Greece. By the way, I'm from Greece and I am in Greece at the moment. So me not really wanting to go, I just tried it for 6 months. I said, I'll go for 6 months. And I was called for interviews for business, for jobs, for design jobs that I was not interested, but following always RISD's advice to go to any interview so I can get the experience and learn from that. I did go to one of the biggest children's wear company, and I landed with a job that ended up sending me to Paris and train next to the head designer of Becler's of the children's department, because I had no experience in children's. I was doing always women's wear. That was a love at first sight again. I fell in love with the children's wear, and then that kept me in Greece for a long time, working with this company until I ended up landing with another women's wear job. A very big company interviewed me and they wanted me, and I ended up keeping both these jobs, running both design teams and teaching at the university textile surface design. That was a crazy time of my life, working from 9 till midnight every weekend, flying all over the world, Asia, Syria, Turkey, France, Italy, for the shows, for everything. So my life was a little crazy and I couldn't have a personal life. So I started saying I have to slow down a little bit and started changing my whole lifestyle. So I started giving up some of the jobs. Everything was so customer geared. Everything was about the customer. So I was feeling that I was losing my creativity. And I was looking to find another way to channel my creativity without necessarily being a professional, move, just for me to use my hands, my eyes, and my design ideas just to create without having to think whether it's nice or not, whether it would sell or not, how much, how can we do it like this, or how can we, transform it to be more accessible. I just wanted to create, like in college, not thinking anything. And this is where I started with jewelry. I took a course with a very well-known jewelry designer in Greece, which was an amazing artist. And I learned a lot of skills from him. And suddenly my lifestyle changed after marriage and childbirth, and having a husband who every week was in a different country, and we had to live within 3 different countries at the same time. I couldn't keep any of the other jobs anymore. And I was by then 39. I wanted my child. I was a conscious choice to stop completely what I was doing and starting to try something else, not necessarily a career change. It was just something for me to be complete as an artist. There goes again the love at first sight. I was incredibly impressed with how my eyes, my hands, and my brain were working with the new materials, how involved I was in mini sculpting, as you see, and how I could see results really fast. This thing slowly evolved, and it started taking a path as a career, which it wasn't planned to. I was never planning to change a career. Actually, in the meantime, I was making plans to make my own children's wear company. I was doing all the business plans. So for me, it started making more sense that after 20 years of being a very, directed companies, I would do something on my own, which I always wanted to be on my own and create something that was mine. I was not very impressed that other people were taking all the credits for my design, big companies, and there was never mentioning of who really is behind all this. And I thought it was the time for me to move. All I needed for me to travel was small space. I could do most of the production on my own and then send my sculptures to the foundries and the melters to do the work. There was less people involved in the production line, and I had very immediate results. So that was very good for me. All I needed was pack my work in a suitcase and go, which 11 years later, I still do. I put my work in a suitcase and I travel. So every summer I spend my 2 months in another place, not at home in Athens, in another summer place, and I could do my work from here. And this for me is freedom. It means a lot to my quality of life and my freedom of how, it just frees me. I don't also see it as a career change, as I believe jewelry is part of fashion and accessories. It's just, put your design abilities into different materials and different, aspects. All you need to learn is the practicalities. If you have all this strong design foundation that you get from the art school, especially RISD. I found that I could design without boundaries. It is very difficult to run your own business, extremely difficult, but it's definitely worth it. It's extremely difficult. I have made tons and tons of mistakes. And as cliche as it may sound, I have learned from that, because I would never do the same mistake more than 3 times. I would do it once, twice, 3 times, but then I said, okay, this is something wrong. I have to change it. So I had to ask a lot of questions of how do I change? How do I progress? I had to learn a lot on my own and things that I would never like to do. So here I am back into the business plan part and less creativity. So, but it's worth it because it's mine. And I do have plans for this company to expand. It has already expanded. It has been featured in several international magazines as Vogue Italia and British Vogue. Few famous designers wear them in the States. Actresses wear them. Sarah Jessica Parker bought some stuff, but I haven't seen her wearing it yet. And then Geneva Carr. Do you know Geneva Carr from Bull? She has her own show, Bull. Anyway, she is a big fan. She buys all the time for me. And so it has gotten an exposure and has expanding. I am shipping everywhere in the world now. I have orders from everywhere. And I do see this brand expanding into much more accessories, houseware, which I already have a few things, and eventually, why not apparel, fashion again? It's something that my vision would be, to expand this. If there was one advice I would give to people, would be to students or professionals, if you are looking for a change in your career, do it. Expand your boundaries. Search before you change your career. Go deep into what you're going into. You'd like to go into. Learn as much as you can, and slowly you can pivot your career, and slowly you can do it. Just keep the faith. Even during dire straits, keep walking, and it just needs time. Give it time. I guess if I had been in a large company with these 11 years, I would have had different progress. But now I have another child in my head that is growing slowly in parallel to my human child. I don't want it to grow fast. I want it to grow slowly but steadily. So when my child leaves home for her new stage of life, this will be ready to also change and will be with me forever. This is, a lot of careers have like an expiration date, and that was scaring me. I thought this will never end. This is with me forever. And my advice would be, go for it. Just go for wherever you want. If you want to be a jewelry designer, just make sure you don't fall in the trap of all this cookie cutting jewelry that is thousands and thousands out there. Do your own mark. Make your own mark. That's it for me.
Great, Vanessa. Vanessa, do you want to go through your slides real quick?
Yeah, it didn't work. I'm sorry it didn't start.
Just so people see some of your work there, because it's so beautiful.
For some reason it didn't work, and I didn't pay attention to that. So now I'm just clicking it. It's okay. Thank you, Susan.
Sure.
I'm just going to show you. I work with I love the fluidity of nature, and I love how something so hard as metal can look soft and pliable and natural. All my materials are natural, silver and gold, and semi-precious stones, soon precious, which I also have the capability to recycle. I have a great relationship with my foundry. So when I have things that they really stay in stock for a while, they can melt them for me again and reuse the metals, which is another fantastic thing. So I don't get to keep a lot of stock, which is carcinogenic for companies, especially small ones. I have several influencers who have worn my jewelry in New York and everywhere. Let's see. And worn by very diverse people. This is Geneva. I don't know if you recognize her. This is a showroom I was working with in New York. I have a great representative now in New York who's promising me. She's watching right now to expand us. I even had rappers wear my jewelry, which is very interesting because sometimes I don't design for one specific client. For me, it's like whoever likes it can wear it. If you like it, wear it. It's not, but it's a very different function. It's decoration to decorative items. So it really has to do with if it works with your appearance or your style, just wear it. Go for it. Thank you. Thank you, RISD. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, everyone, for having me here today. It's a great opportunity for me.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. We have some questions, so we'll start off with that. This one is for Vanessa. Can you speak to new ways that people are selling accessories? like Etsy? Do you know of anyone who has found success that way? Do you have many other, what is your relationship with the jewelry design community? Do you have many other people?
In Greece, I belong to a group that's called a Jewel Made in Greece, and it used to be like 65 designers together that we all support each other, and we made big shows. We even made a show in New York at the Mad Museum, the Museum of Art and Design. So we were actually, it was a very good platform until COVID. Now, about Etsy, this is a very controversial platform for me, because Etsy is more crafty, not so much as design and art. And I see my work mostly working as pieces of art because they're sculptural, and I want them to be in galleries, art galleries, or very good department stores, or in good hotel stores. Etsy can be a very good way of selling accessories if you want to keep your cost and your sale price low. I don't think if it's something expensive, it's as good. I have my question on that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people were asking me, why don't you sell on Etsy? And I said, I'm not sure if this is good for my brand name as well.
Sure. I mean, I feel like Etsy has its own brand, right? So when you become a part of that, you take on some of what that aesthetic is, that Etsy aesthetic is. And so if your brand really, if that complements your brand and your customer goes to Etsy, then that's a good place for you. But from what I hear you saying, your customer is not the Etsy customer. So
it's not the Etsy customer.
Not going to be helpful.
And it's not their price point, is not the mainstream that you would buy or you would sell a lot.
Yeah.
Having said that, I'm thinking of having a second line, which is more accessible and sold at Etsy. There's a thought of having a second line, which is more commercial. My jewelry is not that commercial. They're very bold and big. So not many people would carry that, would love that.
That's great. All right, we have another question, jewelry question. I'm a student considering designing jewelry as a career. Is it easier for someone starting out to own their own business, or do companies hire young designers? Is it easier starting out to start my own business, or do companies hire young designers in jewelry?
I have never worked with a jewelry company, so I don't really know, but I'm sure big firms which sell jewelry, they would hire jewelry designers, absolutely. I don't see the reason why not. And before starting your own business, I would recommend you work. You get the experience.
Yeah.
So there are so many potholes and so many problems that, while you're getting paid, you're learning also. So I don't think you should go straight out of college and start your business. I think that would be a big mistake unless you have someone besides you who really has the experience. I would recommend you definitely work with a company, and large companies which have design jewelry departments, they hire for sure.
Yeah. Well, this goes right into the next question, which is any tips on running your own business, probably on starting it as well. So do you have tips about what it was like to start your own business? I know that for a lot of people, that's going to involve figuring out how much capital they need and where to obtain that. But yeah, any tips about starting and running your own business?
I started the unorthodox way because it was not planned. So I did start with $100, just buying materials to work with. I never made a business plan, which within the 3 years really was a problem. It started becoming a problem that I didn't have a business plan. So I had to really go back and restart when I realized this is going to be my next path, to rethink it as a real business and put down the real costs and how much everything costs, how much you sell it, where you should put your money, as much as besides of materials, foundries, advertising, representatives, percentage, the stores you would sell, your wholesale price. It has a lot of things that you have to go through, a lot of things that you might not be able to answer straight away, but you should have the questions. So as you start, you have to start filling up these questions. They should be filled out slowly. And you have to know where you're going to sell, because you might have a product and not knowing how to distribute it, which can be the biggest problem. So as soon as you find the productions, you must have your distribution, channel kind of ready, or have an idea of how you're going to sell these things, because you can end up losing seasons of not selling because you haven't thought of where you're going to sell it, really. Having said that, now we have the internet. We don't have so many stores as department stores are closing. Now we have the power of the internet, so you can sell it from home. But that means a lot of advertising, because you're like a little dot in the forest of thousands and thousands of jewelry designers, accessory designers, everything. You have to invest, if you go by the internet, in advertising. Good pictures, presentation, consistency, quality, a different product for a reason for the product to exist. Otherwise, something to draw people to you and not to what already exists.
Yeah.
It has to be something, at least at the beginning, it has to be something that's different. And then you can have more, commercial items, but you always have to have that thing that makes you different. Starting your own business is a little hard. It's a little hard, but it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. You have to be focused.
Yeah. What has been the most successful avenue for you in terms of advertising? I know that you have your Instagram. What has been the most successful for you in terms of that generating customers?
Definitely Instagram. Yeah. Definitely Instagram. Because a lot of the magazines have found me through the Instagram. They have contacted me, and a lot of my sales, I can see where they come from.
Yeah.
From analytics, and you can see they come from Instagram. Less Facebook for me, less. But I hear that other people do get a lot of Facebook sales. For me, maybe not as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Instagram mostly.
And we have let's do one more question for Vanessa, and then I'm going to switch over and do a few questions for Shannon. Let's see. Do you do any trade shows, Vanessa, post-COVID?
Post-COVID, yeah. Before COVID, yes. But post-COVID is before, yeah, right? I did some shows in Greece, and then I did a couple of shows in London. But I did find that the trade shows are dying, which is very sad, and the whole industry is changing. So, and then I think the kiss of death was COVID to all the trade shows. I don't know what's the next step for all these trade shows, whether they will continue live or virtual, I'm not sure. And I'm not sure how the virtual ones, there are some ones that went virtual, how actually successful they are. I don't know. I did some trade shows. What have worked for me very well is pop-up presentations. Pop-up shows. There were my trunk shows, maybe combined with other designers that had shoes or bags or clothes. And we would do pop-ups, and that works very well. And I think in the States, it would work even better because you have a bigger audience, country is big, economy is Okay, well, the economy here is not, but I think pop-ups are a very good idea. You can do in stores.
That's great. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
Vanessa, would you go ahead and unshare your screen so we'll be able to see Shannon?
Oh, how do I unshare? How do I unshare here? Escape. Wait, sorry. How do I, Pedro, how do I take the screen off?
I think if you go to the top, it should give
Yeah.
you a bar that says unshare.
Stop share, yeah.
Stop share.
Okay, great. Sorry.
All right.
There you go.
Great.
Technical wizard I am.
So Shannon, you talked about the importance of working within a team.
Yeah.
What are the things, because I know I imagine that you've been on the hiring end of things. What are when somebody's coming in for a job interview, what are the things you're looking for, but both in that interview for how to present yourself, but long term, what's the kind of person who's going to be successful working within a team with you?
Great question. I think it's really important for designers who are looking to get into, probably in any industry, but specifically in performance footwear, are, as I mentioned, relentlessly curious, and they're trying to solve a problem, like a real human performance problem. I like to say that athletic footwear is the mobility business. Because we are, it's certainly you're protecting and creating traction, and there's, depending on the end use activity, you're solving problems that are going to enable that consumer to live a passionate life outdoors. And so because of this, this industry attracts a lot of industrial design majors, especially transportation design majors. I would say coming from an apparel design background is unique for me, but what it doesn't change is I'll be looking for process in your portfolio. Like, what are those curious questions that you have around finding, asking good questions to find unique solutions for, so an example of, the designer I presented in my presentation, he came to me after he got his degree in graphic design and then took a night school course himself, or a day school course out here in Oregon. We have something called Pencil Academy, and it's really sort of a graduate program, if you will, for people who want to get into athletic performance footwear. He did that and then came in with this portfolio where, he was really passionate about a sport not totally related to outdoor pursuits, but really met his target consumer, his aspirational muse, where they are, and took me through the journey of, these were the problems, these are the ideations. So we want to see that ideation in your portfolio that can represent itself in pencil sketches, or if you're using Procreate, and then really taking that to fruition. So what are the attributes, the touch points, the hidden details, the color, the material, the texture, the mood, and then maybe taking me through that storytelling, using storytelling to take me through the whole process of how that you see that product coming to life. So usually a portfolio that we look at in footwear design has ideation, sketch work, mood boards, color, materials, more final renderings, both for uppers as well as the bottoms of the shoes. And that's really where, the outsole performance design, this is where we're solving a lot of underfoot performance needs and coming up with underfoot geometry that help with traction and durability. And, it can be anything. There's certainly cyclical trends happening in footwear industry, like in any other industry. But for me, I want to hire people who are first and foremost, presenting that they're super curious about consumers who are not maybe them, not necessarily them. You're solving for others, and can articulate that well, and in general have a good sense of, a passion for hard work, because it's not easy. Things don't come easy. And I think that there are many YouTube videos, how to become a footwear designer, in 4 easy steps, but maybe I'm exaggerating, but it's not that easy. You really need to get in. It's not all the gloss that you see on Instagram, and you need to know the skills. There's some really old world skills that I think make the best designers.
I'm going to try to fit in a couple more questions here. I wondered, Vanessa was able to talk just a little bit about how the conversation around sustainability affects her business. I wondered, I would think that you are having, especially at Columbia, having a lot of conversations about the impact that your industry has and how you are going about addressing that. I know that's a huge concern of students coming out of school. There really has been a shift towards, yes, this has to change. So I wondered how you guys are talking about that.
Definitely, it's from a Columbia perspective, it's baked into a lot of what we do. We're looking at algae blooms for midsole compression molding, midsole toolings, rubber regrinds, recycled PET. We use remarkably a lot of, this isn't a new topic, right? So for the past 25 years, many factories in Asia, specifically where we manufacture, it's already common practice to reduce, reuse, recycle, repurpose. So there's a lot of stuff that maybe goes under the radar that we specifically, maybe as a brand, don't yell about and put out there like, maybe a Patagonia does. They kind of own that space. But it is really, when I talked about less but better, it really is something that we talk about as a team, and it ties into visual hierarchy as well as sustainability. Design everything you need and nothing you don't. So how do you peel away unnecessary layers, or how can you insert a recycled product, material, textile into a product better than you would have in the past? And it's just constantly pushing us. You might think something's perfect, but we have our founding mother, if you will, Mrs. Gert Boyle. It was always, her famous quote was, "It's perfect, now make it better."
That's great.
Fantastic.
It's really great. All right, I'm going to try to fit in just a couple more here. Someone had a question about, I think this must be for Vanessa. Do you hire anyone to help you with marketing or on Instagram?
Yes, I do. I've done most of it on my own, but it has come to the point that you have to hire professionals for everything, because even, they know everything. There's so much time invested in this that you cannot run the business and run this and run everything. Most of the Instagram posting is mine, but how they use the algorithm on the back is done by professionals, because I don't know. And you reach a point that you use professionals almost everything. Very good photographers, very good, stylists, very good marketeers, but you get there. You don't start with those people. You do it on your own from the beginning. You're like a Swiss Army knife. You do everything on your own.
Yeah. I would say, I do often tell students who are looking to gain experience that approaching a business that they notice doesn't have any Instagram presence, that perhaps might be run, by someone you're obviously very comfortable with that field, but the business might be run by someone who's not as comfortable, and that might be a way in to say, hey, I can totally do this for you, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. I have a question. Thank you, Shannon and Vanessa, and hello from Portland. I guess she's in Portland. My question is about transitioning to designing for a small scale of accessories from designing from a much larger scale of human body or home textiles. What did you do to help with this change of scale? And I guess like I could see both of you having some experience talking about that transition from changing scale.
Scale meaning in
like from designing, like for you, from designing from the scale of
different
a human
type,
body,
right?
to this,
I think
for me, as I said, I don't think it's changing. It's not. It's still fashion. Now, whether you wear it, it's still fashion. Now, all you have to learn, if you have strong design knowledge, you can just transfer it in anything. All you have to learn is the practicalities of each new material that you're using. And that then depends on the person, how much they're willing to go deep into learning something new. It's definitely how much they want to. So it's definitely about the will of learning something new. But it's something that attracts you like a magnet. So you want to learn it.
Shannon, do you want to talk at all about?
Yeah, in footwear, I'll speak to scale. It really is about human performance, right? So if you think about how you zone a garment, there's a torso, there's arms, there's leg, there's sleeves. The same is applicable at a smaller scale in footwear. You're really zoning for performance. So you, especially if you're, depending on what end use activity, most athletic product have more structure around the midfoot. This is where we get into human anatomy a little bit more. There's something called the navicular bone, which is kind of on the instep of your foot, that if studies have proven if you lock that down, then your heel doesn't move out of the heel cup, and it makes for a smoother ride and a smoother experience. So it's an understanding the scale of how it zones for that particular product that begins to dictate the choice of design language, whether, or toe protection and where you place these materials. I would say, it's a great question. It's not something that I've thought too much about. A very obvious problem is maybe scale and textile design. A lot of prints and patterns are overscaled and won't work on footwear. So that's something that, if you're working with a graphic design department, you are adjusting for scale in that way. But otherwise, you get very used to this unique scale. And it was really something that attracted me to footwear, is because I think my early days with Liz Claiborne, recognizing that I wasn't in commercial design going to be doing a head to toe collection, that a footwear piece, really any accessory, really accents the full garment and has a sense of expression that is equally as rewarding as designing full collections.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna wrap things up here. I know that Shannon and Vanessa are both open to any further questions. Any of you who it occurs later in the day, something that you want to reach out and ask, please contact the RISD Institutional Engagement. There might be some, actually, I don't know if there was contact information that was sent out for you guys, but anyway, if you have a question, you can definitely contact RISD and they will shuttle your question to Shannon or Vanessa, I'm so incredibly thankful for them participating in this, and really thankful for the conversation. Thankful again to RISD for helping support it, and thank you to all of you who attended this and who might be viewing it later on. Thanks so much.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
Real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Nice to see all of you.
Nice to see you as well. Everybody have a delightful day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.